So just starting off, the purpose of this session that we're having is really to help project management professionals who are looking to transition maybe into a new role or start with a new organization, and helping them with how they would handle potential interview questions that may arise when they're sitting to interview for a new role. So the gentlemen that are with me, I've got Carl Pritchard. So has an excess of 20 years of project management experience and in a variety of training roles. He's a graduate of The Ohio State University, so go Bucks.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, and boasts having taught in excess of 2,900 students that have successfully passed the exam. Is that correct, Carl?
Yep. Actually, we're over the 3,000 mark now, but we'll take
that.
that.
Excellent, yep. Excellent. It's time to update that LinkedIn profile then. So, excellent. On the other side here, believe it or not, it's actually not Lisa Hammer. It's David Newman. So also has an excess of 20 years of experience in project management. Now I see you're with a Leadership Techniques. Is that correct? You hold customized seminars for
right.
organizations?
Correct.
Excellent. Very good. Is there anything else that I missed, gentlemen, that you feel like it's pertinent to add? No? Very good.
I think that's good.
So we have a variety of questions to go over, and as Carl and I were discussing, it's quite the long list, 9 pages of questions. So I think the format is probably going to slightly change as we go through this meeting. I first wanted to start it off just with input from the both of you regarding your thoughts on what, with your experience, what do you typically look for in a potential hire when you're meeting someone and interviewing them for a role? What kind of qualities and traits are you typically seeing and looking for in a new hire?
You want to go first, Carl?
Sure. I'd say it's the whole get her done thing. I think that's really what you're trying to get, is a sense that this is somebody who genuinely cares about outcomes, really wants to get to the point where they're saying, I can produce things on time, on budget, according to spec, or at least, even if you leave out the end part of that, I can produce things. A lot of people go into this with the attitude of, well, my job is primarily managerial in nature. It's like, that's so much crap. The reality is what we're doing is we are the get her done people. We're the people who actually just focus on what's it going to take to actually produce what it takes to make the end user or the client happy. And if we can do that, and if you can convey that, you're a winner. Dave?
Yeah, that was great. I agree with all of that. I think that one of the questions that I like to ask potential project managers who are going to work for me, especially if they have experience as project managers, is what do they think a typical day is going to look like? And if they're able to answer that, they may not be ready to be a project manager, because there is no. So what we're looking for is a person that's ready to say, my typical day is going to be, I'm going to come in the morning and figure out what needs to be done, just like what Carl just said, and then looking for the, kind of the creative problem solving, the innovation skills, and especially the soft skills that are going to enable them to go do what Carl just said, to be able to get things done. That primarily is our job. And against all odds, we still have to produce results.
Excellent. Very good. So to move on to the next part of the session here, there are, like I mentioned earlier, there's quite the list of questions that we've prepared that interviewees typically see in an interview that they may be having for a potential role. So, I don't want this to be too structured of a format, but with that said, the purpose of this session is to convey as much information as possible for folks who are looking to, who are planning on interviewing for a role, so that, they can be as prepared as possible. I'm going to share my screen here. so that we can have the questions on the screen. Let's see here. Can you gentlemen see my screen?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Lovely, lovely pictures there. So the first question that we've got on the list here is justify your candidacy for this position. Now, I was going to ping pong questions off the two of you, but I also want you to riff off of one another, right? Because input from the both of you would be really useful. So let's just start with you, Carl, and David, obviously feel free to chime in. So justify your candidacy for this position. What kind of retort would we want to have for that? What kind of response?
I think what Dave said actually in his introductory remarks was perfect for that. When you say, I don't see a typical day for a project manager, I thought that was sheer brilliance. And I also think the other thing that you want to do if you're trying to justify that you're the right person for the job, what you want to talk about is not who you are. Instead, what you want to focus on is the people you've touched and the people who have touched you. And what I'm saying is, if you're able to say, if you were just hiring me, probably not a good hire. But I have had the honor of working with, and then start citing the people you've worked with in the past and be able to say, it's not my experience you want just by itself. You want their experience. You want their lives. You want what's happened to them. You say that, and you're going to leave the interviewer misty-eyed and weepy. It's really a great response.
I am feeling emotional from your response as it is, so that's great.
It's a good thing.
David, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
That was great. Yeah, look for the words they use. Are they using words like I and me, or we and us and they? To listen to the pronouns. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Next question. What is earned value? Explain, please. If you want to start this one off, David.
Sure. I actually would be impressed if someone could answer that question. Depending on their level of experience and the level of experience that they're claiming, then that would guide me as far as my judgment of how much they know about earned value. What's more important to me is that they're willing to learn. Project management is constantly changing. It's a very dynamic field. So if they know a particular technology or a particular methodology, that probably has more to do with what their previous company demanded of them. If a company is using earned value, then they will have learned it. If they weren't using it, then they probably didn't learn it unless they learned it to take the exam, in which case, if they're not still using it, they're going to forget it, right? But the question is, what is their attitude toward learning new things and using new things? So whether or not somebody knows something particular like earned value is not as big of a deal to me as are they willing to learn it if we're going to use earned value here in this organization.
And the road that David just went down, I think, is kind of crucial. That is, it's not a specific skill set you want to have. Honestly, I looked at this question. I thought it was like a pop quiz to find out, okay, do you even know project management? Have you even heard of earned value? Because if somebody flops around like a carp on this question, then frankly, they're probably haven't been in the field very long. But if they say, what's earned value? They can answer that question, or at least give you some semblance of what Dave just said. Then you've got a sense that, yeah, they understand that earned value is a very complex set of practices, tools, techniques, and that if they know it, great. That's gravy, but that's not the meat. That's not really what you need.
Right. But I agree with Carl. They should at least know. They might not know the formulas and that, exactly how to use it, but they should know why earned value is used and what it really means.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. The next question here is, what is project charter? How important is it for a project? Carl, if you'd like to start this one off for us.
And oddly enough, I think we just answered that. This is largely the same kind of question, which is if you get this question on an interview, Again, it's about saying, I understand the terms, terminology, and practices of project management. If they get that far down the road, generally, I color you in pretty good fettle. But the difference being earned value is an ancillary practice. The charter is getting out of the box, getting out of bed in the morning. You really need the project charter, and the fact that it's the authorizing document, and those are the words I'm going to be looking for. If somebody asks that question, the authorizing document, the one that blesses you to go ahead and do the project. If they understand that, you've arrived.
Excellent, very good. Next question, why a project manager is required to manage a project? Seems rather simple of a question. David, how should we respond to that question?
Well, more than half of the project management industry thinks that a project manager is not required to manage a project. So that's going to be a funny question to answer. These days, I think that what we're looking for is for a person to say, well, it depends on what you expect the role of the project manager to be. A project manager may not be required to manage a project if that project is run in a certain way, decentralized management, using, and are we going to start to use the word agile in this discussion? Because a lot of agile practices say that there is no project manager needed. Now, I personally happen to disagree with that. I think that the answer to this is a project manager is required not to manage a project, but to serve the project and to serve the people. Our job as a project manager is to get the team what they need to be able to do their job. And so a project manager may not be required to manage a project, but somebody needs to be there to serve the project. So those are the kinds of answers I'd probably be looking for in that.
Excellent, very good. Thank you, sir. My lights seem to have turned off. Next question, what is our project baselines? Carl?
Yeah, I would say project baseline is the target. It's what we believe we can actually hit in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of deliverables. It is the belief system. And what's amazing is a lot of projects lurch forward without ever saying, okay, this is where we believe we're going to land in terms of time, cost, deliverables. And they get 2/3 of the way through, and nobody knows, did we hit the target or not? The baseline ultimately becomes the target. And what's staggering to me is that a lot of organizations aren't willing to put down a baseline because they don't want to miss the target. And if you can express that you actually understand that the baseline's the target and we intend to have one, and then ultimately to hit it, we've arrived.
Excellent. Question number 6. What is project integration, David? How would someone answer that question?
If the project integration is a top level project management duty. So integration is where we bring all the different pieces of the organization and the different pieces of the project together. And it's not a phase. It's something that happens all the way through. In fact, it is most of the work that the project manager will be doing is integrating the work of the project into the organization. It's really a subset of change management, right? So what we'd be looking for is for a potential project manager to understand that that's where they're going to spend a lot of time, and it may not be easy because it's going to involve a lot of negotiation. It's going to involve a lot of interpersonal communication, and it's really going to involve what happens with project integration is people get better and better at it over time because they start to understand how things really work within an organization, and then they're able to take those skills forward into other organizations. So the more we understand as a project manager, the fact that project integration is going to probably be our biggest challenge, the better off we are from the start in a new job.